Hey there, I want to welcome you to another episode of Rise of the 1% podcast where you're going to discover the tools, the insights, the strategies to dominate and get into the top 1% of your industry. I am G Bass, and I'm extremely excited about today's episode. Today, we have a Rise of the 1% family member on today's episode. She actually is from Philly, resides here in the Georgia area now, and she works with a lot of business startups to also doing accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes. And so on today's episode, I want to welcome none other than Miss Denise Murray. Excited to have you on, Denise.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start here, Denise. I know I talked a little bit about what you do in reference to business, starting off, but tell the audience, who is Denise Murray?
I'm a girl from West Philly. I live pretty much in the hood of West Philly. Mm-hmm. From there, I would say I started off with doing little stuff. I always was one that was one of a hustler. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much did a lot of stuff from doing hair, watching people, kids, all types of stuff to make me some money. I was just always that. Mm. My mom owned a bar, so I started off working at her bar on the weekends at 12, where I would just clean up. And then as I got older, that's when I went to different types of jobs working at her bar. I went from, like I said, cleaning in the beginning, with just cleaning on the weekends, to then changing up to cooking in the kitchen. Mm. And then after cooking in the kitchen, I went from bartending, and then I went into managing the bar. Mm. And again, with doing that, I also was into doing a lot of promotions with the bar. So I had, promoted like the dollar nights, the ladies' night, your men's night, strippers, all types of things. When it came to the bar business, that's where I started off at. Mm-hmm. Eventually, things happened. I got pregnant. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I had a daughter who's now in college, going to her HBCU.
Okay. Nice stuff.
And so with that, comes relationships. And that's honestly how my drift came from Pennsylvania to Georgia, because that's where I thought I was going to be living that storybook life. But when I got here, it wasn't a storybook. I think it lasted maybe a year. And at that point, I kind of was honestly, I was like, I want to go back home.
Oh, wow.
But I was like, at the time, I had already got the house. And I also looked at the fact of I had to think about my child. And at this point, it was like where we are now and where she was going to school and the type of, the curriculum and everything, it was so good. So for me to just do that switch again, I think that would have not been a good thing for her. Yeah. I think it was best for me to have stayed and toughed it out. I did go through a lot of transitions in Georgia, because when I came here, it was through that, during the time of things was going real bad. So I went through different jobs. I started off at the temp to perm, which it ended up not being the perm. It just ended up being temp. Then went to the next job, which ended because they sold the company. Went to another job, which ended because they had to close it down. So I went through a lot of different job transitions throughout that time. With my last one, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to school and get my degree. So I went ahead and got my degree in accounting. During that transition. And then at that point, that's honestly when I was like, I'm going to take this time, because I was getting money from my previous job with them doing their layoffs. And so we was able to get a package at the end, and then also we was able to get approved for unemployment. So that's what I was using to be able to still live. But I also said I wanted to take that time and work for an accounting firm. So I can get my feet wet.
Right.
So that's when I just went and put in for an intern. And I told them, look, I don't have to get paid or anything. I just want to come in here and work, just because I just want to see what it is to do. And that's honestly when I really learned a whole lot about business.
Oh, wow.
That's when I started actually getting into doing my own business. That because of that, going to that company, they had a lot of clients that were business clients. That's when I started learning corporate stuff. So when I got there, I had already knew how to do personal taxes and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't know how to do corporate taxes. So that's how I learned in the internship when it came to doing corporate taxes, and that's how I also learned how to do financials and payroll, because that was actually what I did as an intern. And after I finished with the intern, because during that time I was actually still going to school and I graduated, and they didn't want me to leave because I was doing so well, and I was so, like, a lot of the clients, they was getting the work done and things, and they was like, we'll pay you. Can you stay? They didn't want to. They wound up paying me as an intern. Oh, wow. I came in as free.
You was doing a great job.
They was like, I don't want me to go nowhere, so they ended up paying me as an intern, and then they even gave me more money to stay with them, to work for them.
Yeah.
And that's what I wound up doing. I wound up working for them, but then they got into some things where they had to sell their company. So when they sold their company, I actually stayed working for the next company that they sold it to. But then when that company ended up selling the company, who they sell it to, the people who I didn't want to work for in the beginning, they should not fly. Yeah. And so that's why I had to leave. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, no, they tried to take away all my money and everything. They was like, oh, you're going to have to, work for, like, basically nothing. And I was like, that's a no for me. Yeah. So, then I went to work. I wound up applying for a job for the state. And then, like I said, I was very transparent with them on my time frame, on what I wanted to do, because during this time I was like, I want to focus on me getting my own business together, because I don't want to keep having to go through the layoffs and picking up a new job, because that was, looking for a job is a job. I've heard. It was just so much, and so I was just like, I can't fire and let myself go. So I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to push me, and I'm going to invest in me. And that's when I also got into, after a while, I learned about even the travel industry. And when I got into that, I really didn't understand that business at first, to be honest. I more so got into that because of the fact that I just wanted some discounts on going places. And so I didn't even tell anybody I had the business. I just was using my perks and going away and getting money. And so that's what I did. And then after a while, when I seen someone in the business who left their job from it, I was like, hold on, this might be something. So that's when I really started kind of like getting into it a little more, and was like, okay, this is something that I can have. This could be generational wealth. And so that's why I say, even with me having my accounting business, I always have that travel business, because that's generational wealth. Because I know my daughter will never do what I'm doing in my accounting business, because she says she hates what I do. So I'm like, I have that where not only can she have that in the future, but she still is able to utilize it now.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. So, it's an interesting story. So, first off, Denise, you started young age. You say basically working in your mom's bar. You say around 12 years old? Wow. It's a very young age. Very young age. And then you said as you got older, you started to help out with the different nights in terms of the bar. You did some things in terms of promotions, which is, that's part of my background as well. I used to be in party and concert promotions. And then you ended up, like you say, getting pregnant, moving here to Georgia. And it just seems like, you've had quite a bit of journey since you've been here in Georgia, going through these different job situations and layoffs and selling companies. To one thing as well, I took away from what you were speaking on is when you was working as an intern, basically working for free to learn more about accounting. Yeah, that's a big takeaway there. And I actually spoke about that in one of our previous Rise of the 1% episodes. At times, when you want to get your foot in the door and get some experience and things of that nature, sometimes you got to be willing to work for free in the beginning stages, when it comes to different opportunities and stuff like that. And you can see here, that's what pretty much Denise did there. And then eventually you was doing so well, they decided to start paying you. Right. Which is, I talk about that.
The same thing. I told her, because she's in school for legal, for law, because she wants to be a lawyer. And I even told her to do the same thing. Like, right now I'm helping you already, so it's not like you that pressed for money. But if you find somewhere that you can get, so you can get your hands-on experience. It's always good to go in as an intern and just say, hey, because people are always willing to give you, especially if they ain't got to pay you.
Right.
And you're going to get that knowledge.
Exactly.
And then my thing is, then when you have that money that you can invest in yourself to get even more knowledge, then that's when you invest in your business, invest in yourself.
There you go.
Because when you invest in yourself, you always going to produce even more.
That's true. I agree. 100%. Hey, let's just pause for a moment. What if I was to tell you that you could take lead generation completely off your plate this year in 2024? What if I was to tell you that it was a way for you to get an efficient, consistent, and predictable client acquisition system in place for your business this year in 2024? You see, over the last 7 years, I've helped Black coaches, consultants, course creators, and service providers literally be able to pack their calendars with qualified appointments. We have clients as well that we've helped scale up to 20,000 plus a month in under 60 days without even spending any money on paid advertising. So this year, if you're looking to take lead generation completely off your plate and get an efficient, consistent, and predictable client acquisition system in place for your business and be able to scale up your company's revenue, profit, and impact, it's going to be a link right here in this video that you actually want to go over to, and you actually can schedule a 45-minute call with me. We'll get on the call, find out a little bit more about where you are in your business, what you're looking to accomplish this year, and put a custom tailored strategy in place to help you scale up your company this year in 2024. Go ahead and go to the link right here. Go to the link right here in this video and schedule a call. With that said, let's get back to the episode. I definitely agree 100%. And so you as well got into the travel industry, which is, I've been in that industry as well. You say for the travel perks. Yeah, that's huge. Travel the world for a fraction of the cost to some of your most favorite places. And then also you helping people, of course, start travel businesses as well. Absolutely. Great stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about as well your journey thus far, Denise, with getting into pretty much working with like business startups and even having your own accounting and, bookkeeping and tax business. Let's talk a little bit about how that's been for you thus far in terms of your own business.
Well, in the beginning, it was honestly because I was working with accounting firm. I was working with these different companies. Of course, I couldn't promote my business, even though I had started it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even tell nobody about it except for family and friends because it was a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And so I only dealt with family and friends in the beginning. So I had no other clients other than family and friends. So I wasn't really making that much money at all. I was only getting, and I don't charge my family and friends. I wasn't really charging people that much because, again, I was starting off. And so that's all I did in the beginning. Once I got into, that's why I said what I said about me going into working for the state. That's when I was able to actually promote my business. But up until then, I couldn't promote my business because it was a conflict of interest. So when I got there, that's when I started promoting. And honestly, at that time, that's when I was like, when I said the person who introduced me, well, she didn't introduce me to travel, but that's who actually kind of got me connected to you, and that was Brandy James. Because with her, when she left her job, and that's who I looked at when it came to the travel business, and I was like, okay, good, I need to do that. Because I'm like, she could take herself off her corporate job, but then when she also came to me, when she seen what I was doing with my accounting business, that's how I got introduced to you. And so by me getting introduced to you, that's when I honestly really was just starting to really push my business where people can see it. So I went from literally getting maybe, I would say about $10,000 for the year to getting where I was when I got with you was when I started making $70,000 to $80,000 a year with the stuff that you was teaching me with Rising to 1%. So I had that big jump, that basically a $70,000 jump from being with y'all.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Absolutely. And been able to go full time.
Right. And that's when I gave him the notice. That's why I said I left earlier. Because once I hooked up with you, with the business, and I started learning different stuff, I started connecting with different people and helping people getting their businesses going, helping more people with their financials, getting more payroll clients, getting more bookkeeping clients. It helped me. while learning all the different stuff. And that's why I was like, I really appreciate your company, because not only are we able to come to your company to get the services, but you actually are able to learn the services for yourself. And that's what most businesses don't have. And that, like I say, that hands-on. I was able to learn how to create a funnel and even able to put trips out there for both, like my travel business. I was able to do landing pages and different things that I never did before that I'm able to do on my own if I don't have the money and be able to make money.
Right.
So I'm like, those are things that with your company that a lot of people don't understand. Like, that's a gift in itself. Because, like, I don't know if people ever watched that video with Tyler Perry when he talked about how, you know, he had an accountant and he was talking about how people will rob you when it comes to your business and stuff, and you're giving all your business to somebody and you don't really know what's going on. He said he started from the ground, and that's just like with me. I started from the ground. So when you start from the ground and you're doing everything by yourself, you know how everything is flowing within your business. So therefore, when you do begin to pay people, you know what to expect. And you know what's going on, you know how your business is going. And that's why I appreciate with this business, with how y'all able to teach that, because I'm like, I can do that myself. However, I can pass it off to somebody if I have the money to do it. But at least I know I can do it for myself.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Yeah, because a lot of people attempt to do that all the time in business. It's just, they just want to hand off things immediately over learning the process themselves and stuff like that. And, at times, if things are not, you know, going as well with the person they may have delegated to or what have you, they don't really know how to fix it, you know, themselves, because they don't really understand the process, right? Or even if someone's getting over on them.
Right.
At the same time, too.
And that's
you know,
why
when
I
it comes to
appreciate
results.
you teaching a lot of stuff organically.
Yeah.
Because even with me doing this, you figure organically when you're teaching us how to build things.
Right.
I didn't have a travel page at all. I organically got every person on my page for travel that was at zero, because I didn't even request for no friends. Just from me doing things organically, got people to come onto that page and start following. So I'm just like, to learn those different things and stop always thinking, because in the beginning I came with the mindset, I just need to learn how to put an ad out there. You know what I mean? Because I want to get a bunch of people, but then you realize you put a bunch of money into an ad and it's a flop because you're not getting all of what you thought you was going to get from the ad. So now you just put all this money out here that was a waste of money.
Right.
So it's like to actually learn how to do stuff organically and be able to get people organically, and your business opposed to always spending a bunch of money on ads.
Yep. Absolutely. I talk about that all the time. I tell potential clients, even clients we work with at times, you got to make sure your offer is validated organically first without even spending any money on ads. Because at times people run straight to ads, like Denise just said, and you could burn through a whole lot of money if your offer is not validated, if it's not selling organically already without ads. You can burn through a whole lot of money. Okay, I talk about that all the time. All right, so let's talk, Denise, a little bit about what are some of the steps in terms of corporate startup? Do you have like any steps, anything when it comes to like corporate type startup in terms of business?
I've always tell people, when you're starting your business, first make sure the first thing you always want to do is figure out what it is that you want to do, that you like doing. I tell that everybody, that's your first step. Because if you don't like what you're doing, and if you're just doing it for the money, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly.
And then you're not passionate about it. And it's not going to go the way you want it to go. If I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. And that's why when people come to me and they're like, oh, how can you do this work all night? I'm like, I don't have a problem working all night because it's something that I like to do. But if it was something that I was like not really into, I'd be like, I'm going to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like, I say that's your first thing, is making sure you're passionate about what it is that you're doing, something that you truly like. And then you go into saying, okay, now I want to make this into a business. And then that's when you go into the steps of, okay, you need your name. Okay. And this is where the steps was that I messed up on in the beginning, because I didn't do things properly. Okay. And the first thing you want to do is check with the Secretary of State and make sure that name is not taken. Right. Make sure it's available. Made that mistake where I put a name out there. All I did was go get an EIN number. It had business cards, website, everything, and never checked. And then when it's time for me to register my business, I had to start from scratch and had to trash everything because somebody else had the name. And so I was like, oh my God.
I'm telling you.
And so I threw all that stuff in there. I had no choice because it was somebody else.
Yeah.
And here it is. I'm thinking, and why was I thinking this? But I'm like, oh, this is my initials. But there's a million people that can have the same initials as me. So I always tell people, make sure you check that name first and really go on the Secretary of State and verify that nobody else has that name. And then after you go from that, that's when you go ahead and register your business. And once you register your business, then you get your EIN. And after you get your EIN, that's when I tell people go to GoDaddy, make sure you get your domain. And after you get your domain, while you're on there doing that, also make sure, because that's how you also get your professional web email address. You also can get your professional phone number. You can do a regular local number or an 800 number. And all that you can do straight through GoDaddy. And then after you do that, that's when you want to go ahead and set up your Duns and Bradstreet and your NAV account, so you can start building your business credit. Right. And so that's why I always tell people, go through those steps. I know sometimes some of them steps is tedious, but one of the steps that I have to push out there, especially right now, and it's when it comes to incorporating yourself. A lot of people are getting these LLCs and people are putting their LLCs together, but they are not submitting the documents that they need to the actual IRS. And know if there are forms that you have to submit to the IRS if you're going to be an LLC or if you're going to be incorporated. And if the IRS does not have those forms, they will not look at you as you're that. And I have had people come to me where they went to other people or they did it themselves with their business. And when I tried to file their corporate return, they did not go anywhere because of the fact that the IRS did not recognize them as a corporation. So they have to make sure that 2553 form is sent in to be able to make sure that they're an actual corporation, an S corp. And the other thing I tell people is if you're making over at least, if you're making at least over $40,000 in your business, you don't want to continue putting it on a Schedule C on your personal tax return because why? You're paying more money if you don't incorporate yourself. So it's best to go ahead and incorporate yourself and be able to eliminate that self-employment tax, and then you're able to write off more expenses. You don't have that cap on your expenses. And not only that, you're looking more professional in the business world if you do want to get grants or loans and stuff, because now you actually got a corporate return where you have that on there. You're paying yourself. So now on top of that, because you are required to pay yourself with a corporation, but some people don't like that, but you can pay yourself a reasonable salary. However, you're also still paying into Medicare and Social Security, what people don't realize. And the reason why I stress that is because my aunt, who passed away last year, she was married and her husband had his own business. And I stress that because with him having his own business for so many years, when he passed away, he didn't have really nothing coming in where she was able to get from that when he passed away. And the reason why is because all those years of him having his business, he never did what I said, like doing the incorporation and paying yourself a salary. Because when you're not doing that, you're no longer paying into Social Security and Medicaid. So when it comes time for that Social Security check to come, or to even your loved one, there's no money. How long ago have you worked? You see what I'm saying? They're going off of what you put in it. So if you continuously are putting into it, that's how it's still growing off of what you're still putting into it. So if you don't do that, there's nothing there. And then you got people who going back to work at 60 and 70 years old because they ain't got no money. So that's why I'm like, continue to pay yourself. Even if it's something just as small as if I want to give myself $250 a week, or $100 a week, there's something. So you still putting into that to have something for later on when you are ready to say, you know what, I want to be done. I want to just collect on my Social Security and do what I got to do.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Some great insights there, especially about paying yourself. That's something that I didn't understand a whole lot of when I first got into business, especially with what you're talking about in terms of even just thinking about, like you say, one day retiring.
Right.
Right. You got to have some money actually put up. Yeah, that's big. And also as well in terms of the form you talked about, in terms of, being with, you say the IRS? Right,
with the IRS not submitting those performance, because so many people, and then I always tell people, a LLC, everybody like, I need an LLC. I'm like, an LLC is like having insurance.
Yeah.
LLC is just keeping you covered. Yeah. This is like if you crash your car, you covered. But that's not really giving you any type of benefit when it comes to the other things of taxes and everything, and that's all it's doing is saving your business.
Yeah.
It's not giving you any credits to your business. So I always tell people, think about that when you're setting up, and then I always let people know everybody should have an LLC because that's saving your business.
Right.
But you can always incorporate that LLC. So just go ahead and S-corp that LLC. But you can start off with just that and still do it personal. But once you hit a certain amount, you're getting killed in taxes if you don't incorporate your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's something like, stop giving away all your money.
Yeah.
And just go ahead and then do it that way. And then if you got kids, put them kids on them, make sure those kids is getting paid. People don't realize, like, I learned late in the game, and I was like, I wish I knew things prior. But just like I tell people, even when it comes to even paying your kids or putting a Roth IRA up for your kids. And people don't realize that if you do it when they're so young and you have that going, you put in a certain amount of money in there, your kids can be millionaires by the time they're 35 years old. They can have $1 million invested into their thing off from the small investments that you put in it when they were just a kid. So that's why I was just like, these are things that we don't know or we don't learn until we get older. And it's like, dang, I wish I had known that back then, because then I wouldn't be stressing and struggling to try to do this and try to do that, because you'll have these different things in place.
Yeah. That definitely makes a whole lot of sense. What would you recommend to, like, let's say a parent who actually is listening to this? Like, what would you recommend, like, a certain amount they should maybe be putting into, let's say, a Roth IRA?
If you can put time, if you had like $3,000 to $5,000 that you can put in there, let it grow. If you put that in there when they say about, even if they like 12, you put that in there, by the time they turn 35, that still grows up to at least $1 million.
Wow. Denise just shared with you how you can make your kid a millionaire by 35. Big gems. Yeah, I love it. This is some great stuff, Denise. Great stuff. Okay. So, tell me this here, Denise. Can you tell me some of the pitfalls you see with people starting business? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like some of the pitfalls you've seen with people when it comes to starting businesses?
I would say, just for myself, I would say one thing is we rush. And because we want everything fast. That's the first thing I see a lot of us fall in, because I know that was my thing. I want to get all this done because I want to push out. Like, I just want, but sometimes, and this is why even recently, like even with me doing the rebranding with Antonio, like with the Rise, like with doing that, like all of these things is things that honestly we should be taking our time with and doing it before we even get going, really. But we just rush out there and just start doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I say sometimes we really have to have a plan. That's the one thing. The second thing is when it comes to, like you say, doing things organically, another thing I felt in was I wanted to rush trying to put money out there to just try to get people to look. And so I'm like putting out boosting posts and trying to do ads and things, and nobody knew really what I was doing at all, because I was never really having my page set up to say really what I was doing. I was just doing stuff, And then another thing that I learned is I was doing everything on my personal page. And so it was like I didn't have separate pages for my business or anything. And it was like nobody really understood what I was doing because I had so much going on one page. So that's why I had to start separating. And then, like you said, about Kevin, what am I doing to help people? Like, how can I help people solve their frustrations and different things like that? And that's one of the things I'm like, if our product is not helping, or whatever your service is not helping somebody, people are not going to be interested in what you got going on if you're not helping them.
100%.
And, so I say those is the top things I think when it comes to people getting into business, because those are the things that they spend a lot on. And depending on the type of business that they're in. Now, I know, like, with some people, I deal with a lot of truck drivers, too. So, like, with some of them, they have a thing where everybody want to be an owner operator. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
people don't understand the expenses that comes along and the forms that
Yeah.
comes along with the paperwork.
Yeah.
And so when I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, it's time for y'all to get the $22.90 done. It's time for you to get your fuel tax done. It's time for, so all of these are things that they have to understand. Like, okay, you can be an owner operator, you can make big money, but you have to make sure you got money put to the side to do that. And people laugh, and I know I told somebody, and I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, and Kevin Hart made a valid point the other day, and he was like, he always split his money into threes. He never take all his money. He was like, one portion of his money is just for the IRS.
Yeah.
Another portion of his money is to invest and to put so money can start going around again, and then the rest of the money is for him to do what he need to do, take care of his bills and all, play and do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But I know some people's like, oh, he got a bunch of money, so yeah, he can do that. But I'm like, honestly, it's like that. The thing, another person, what I tell people when it comes to business is you also have to have the mindset.
Yeah.
And you have to be on a mindset to know when you want to really have a business and certain things you got to do within your business. And when it comes to money, you have to always know that you're not just going to get away from not paying the IRS any kind of money when you have a business.
Yeah.
I don't even care if you out here on the streets hustling.
Yeah.
You paying for those bags and those bottles and all that. And that, honestly, I hate to say it, but we actually had a guy that was like that. And he used to get audited. But however, they never can do anything because he actually documented his stuff from the T. So when they actually had all his documentation, what can they do? Because it looked like he has a pharmaceutical company because of the fact that he's paying for all, you know what I mean? Like he has everything lined up for his expenses. So yeah, like I was saying, when it comes to business, you do have to have all your documents in order to be able to successfully go through your businesses, like I was saying with the guy, because like I say, even now, with this BOI is important because of the fact that the government now wants to know who owns these businesses. That's why when you fill out that form this year, which I tell everybody, make sure if you have a business, if you're doing a Schedule C, if you have an LLC, a corporation, make sure you're filling out that BOI before December 31st, 2024. Why? Because in 2025, you will be fined $500 a month and up to $10,000, and then you can get 2 years of prison time if it's not done. But the catch to that is they're wanting just to know who owns these businesses. And that's the only information that they're asking on those forms is about the business and about the owners.
Wow. Well, look into that BOI. That's big. That's big. Appreciate you sharing that, Denise, definitely. So let's transition the conversation here, Denise. Tell me, how soon do you believe a business owner should go about hiring like someone to help them with bookkeeping and taxes?
I would say depending on the type of business you have.
Okay.
If you're a type of business that is starting up and say you don't know how to do books, and you really don't have it. All right, let me back up. Let's just say you have the money to do it. Do it right away. Just go ahead and have somebody taking care of your books, getting your bookkeeping done. If you don't have the money and you don't want to hire somebody and you think that you can somewhat do it, then that's when you want to make sure that you're keeping track of all your expenses and make sure that you have a business bank account where nothing else is dealing with that account but business expenses and business income is only going in and out of that account. And if you do it that way, then you can be a little bit more easy up on what is what, as far as like what was food, what was auto, what was, all your expenses, so you can actually have a P&L at the end of the year that you can make for yourself. But if you're not that type of person who, for one, has the time to do that, or if you don't have the money to really take care of that, then you really just want to go ahead and get somebody to do it for you, because at the end of the year, and I'm going to say this in the camera, accountants do not want a bag of receipts. We want a P&L and a balance sheet to do your taxes. Right. So do not send me a trash bag full of receipts. Because it's just nobody has time to go through a bag of receipts. I literally had somebody come with, when you're moving and you had a big plastic container, he actually brought that container to my house, a whole bunch of receipts, filled with receipts. Wow. And I was like, I have other clients. I don't have time to sit here and go through all these receipts.
Yeah.
So it's best to have a business bank account and let all your expenses and income go in that account. And if you need to transfer money to yourself personally, that's why I said it's best to be a corporation. You transfer that money to yourself as a corporation. If you're an S corporation, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then you can, that will be just the owner's draw. And then in that owner's draw, when you put that transfer in, then that's just something that you're using. That money will go into your personal account for you to pay your bills and do whatever else you got to do if you need to transfer. But that's one of the rules that you can do with being an S corporation. So that's why I say that business bank account is a must.
Very
and
important.
then have all that in there because that makes things easier. But it's really good to, if you're not that person that's going to be taking care of your books, just let somebody else do it for you.
Huge. Great stuff. Great stuff. So, yeah, you got to keep the business definitely separate from the personal.
Right.
Like Denise said. And that helps, of course, if you doing your own taxes, or if you're hiring someone to help you with bookkeeping and taxes as well, and having those P&Ls, balance sheets, things of that nature is very, very important as a business owner. Because like Denise says, she don't want a bag full of receipts.
No.
Looking at P&Ls. Yeah, profit and loss statements, definitely. Okay, so this has definitely been a great conversation, Denise. You dropped a lot of great information. I've gotten some insights from it as well. So definitely appreciate everything that you have shared. And if there's any last words you have, Denise, for those that's listening in, that you may want to share with those fellow entrepreneurs and business owners out there in terms of any words of advice you may want to give them in terms of taking on this year of 2024 and making the best of it with their businesses. If you have any last words, you can share those.
Okay, I would say for any entrepreneurs that's out there right now, number one, make sure your business is set up properly. And the second thing, make sure you get that BOI taken care of. And it says tax season, so make sure you are getting all your expenses and things together. And if you need a tax person, or because not every place, and I know a lot of times, because I know we have these blocks and Jackson Hugh and all these different places out there, those places are not going to give you what you need to know when it comes to what type of expenses you can write off. So you want to find you a private person who would actually, and not everybody does this, but I know I'm this person that is going to tell you the type of expenses that you can write off within your business. So you want to make sure that you actually know, because sometimes you don't know all the things that you can write off within your business, and then the things that are considered depreciation within your business that you can write over 5 years. So you want to talk to somebody where you can get that information so you know what you are looking at with credits and deductions when it comes to your taxes. And just have your things in order, because it's always good to have your P&L, like always have somebody at least doing your bookkeeping so you can have a P&L and balance sheets, because most of these places that you apply for stuff for, that's exactly what they're going to want to see. If you want to get government funding, like I have a client who get a lot of government, he get government contracts. With government contracts, you have to have those things in order to get it. So that's why you want to have an accountant taking care of that, because that's their way of putting their stamp on it, saying that a professional did it, and they are able to use that to be able to get that contract.
Oh, wow. And I get people at times ask me about getting government contracts too. So it's very important to have that paperwork in order, or like you said, the P&Ls, balance sheets, they want to see those type of things.
They want to see it. Want me to stamp on it. So that's why I always tell people, get somebody who actually is certified to do it, because they'll take that and be able to get their contract.
Huge. There it is. So you all have heard from Denise Murray, who is definitely huge when it comes to bookkeeping, taxes, business as a whole. She's also doing her thing in the travel industry as well. I appreciate you again, Denise, for coming on and having this conversation with myself. Definitely been a lot of insights I know I've gotten from it. I'm pretty sure those that's tuning in as well got a lot from it. And Denise, if you can, just tell our viewers or our listeners where they can find you.
You can find me on everything for accounting. You can find me on UBE LLC. On Instagram, it's UBE LLC. And it has the underscore, but everything else is just UBE LLC for accounting, and for travel is at Travel by Denise. Everything is just Travel by Denise for the accounting. I'm sorry, for the travel.
Yeah.
But for accounting, everything is UBE LLC.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, there you have it. And so, yes, if you got a ton of value, learned some things from this episode with Denise, definitely make sure you, for one, hit that like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be dropping a lot more content just like this. And also, share any of your biggest takeaways as well in the comment section as well, what you got out of this conversation as well. Any of your biggest takeaways, definitely love to hear from you. Also, feel free to share this around with anyone else you feel can benefit. And if you are on Apple or Spotify, we are on Apple and Spotify as well with this podcast. So you could go, if you want to listen to the audio as well, you could go over to Apple or Spotify. Make sure you leave a review on this episode of the podcast. And also, being you learned a lot from me and Denise in this conversation, then make sure as well you give it a 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify as well. With that said, definitely until next time, have a phenomenal day on purpose.